Hi, I'm Rahel Philipose and you are listening to Three Things, the Indian Express News Show. In this episode, we talk about the arrest of Amritpal Singh after a month-long chase. We also talk about a village of only 11 people in Odisha that's at the risk of drowning. But first, we talk about Jammu and Kashmir. On Thursday afternoon, 5 army soldiers were killed in Jammu and Kashmir's Poonch district after their vehicle was fired upon by unidentified terrorists. The Jawans who were attacked belonged to the Rashtriya Rifles unit of the Indian Army that had been deployed for counter-terrorism operations in the area. Soon after the attack, a massive search operation was launched by security forces to track down the terrorists. In this segment, the Indian Express's Arun Sharma joins us to talk about this attack. So Arun, can you first talk about how the attack in Poonch took place?
Yes, on Thursday afternoon, an army truck, it was on way from Bimbergali in Poonch to a village Sangyot in the same district. The truck was carrying some eatables, including fruits, among other items, for local villagers who had been observing fast in view of the holy month of Ramadan. And when it was hardly 8-9 kilometers short of destination, some unidentified terrorists who had already laid an ambush on the road. The road is in fact a national highway between Jori and Poonch. They attacked the army truck, opened fire, and even threw a grenade, killing 5 soldiers and critically injuring 1. Because one of them might have hurled a hand grenade also on the truck got fire and it was damaged.
Right, and the Jawans who were killed in the attack were from the Rashtriya Rifles unit. Can you talk about the significance of this unit and its presence in the area?
Yes, Rashtriya Rifles is a counter-insurgency force. It takes care of counter-insurgency operations in the area, in Poonch district, rather all over the in hinterland of the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. But recently there have been talks going on between the government and the army to replace Rashtriya Rifles with Central Reserve Police Force and deploy these units on the line of actual control with China. And their presence has certainly got decreased because some units have already been moved to Ladakh. This may have impacted the counter-insurgency operations by them.
Okay, and this area where the Rashtriya Rifles were carrying out their counter-insurgency operations, could you tell us what the area is like and whether any similar incidents have been reported here?
Yes, the area is Bata Duriya. It is a dense forest. If you go by the aerial distance, it is just hardly 4 to 5 kilometers away from the line of control. The area falls on major infiltration route of terrorists in the past as well. And this route in the past also and present also, sources say, is being used by infiltrating terrorists for going to Kashmir Valley via Mughal Road. And in October 2020 to 2021, 9 soldiers were killed at 2 places in attack by terrorists. A major search operation was launched by the security forces, but it had to be called off without any success after over a month. The area is so dense that they have not got any success against terrorists in finding out the terrorists in the area during the last 2-3 years.
Right, so the area, as you mentioned, has a history of such terrorist attacks. But when we talk about the latest one, do we know who is responsible for this particular attack?
Yeah, so far, People's Anti-Fascist Front, it is an offshoot of Jaish-e-Mohammed in Pakistan. It has claimed responsibility for the attack. Because PAFF has claimed responsibility, so Jaish-e-Mohammed may be behind this attack. And after the attack, combing operations have been launched. Sniffer dogs are there, drones are there. Apart from this, nearly 10 to 12 units of RR, they are combing the forest. They have laid search and combing operations. But so far, there has been no success. And the terrorists are still at large.
Right. And speaking about the subsequent investigation, can you tell us what all has been found out so far about the attack?
Yeah, the investigators have collected empties of steel core bullets from the spot. And these had markings like 71 and head stamp of Chinese factory. Apart from that, the investigations point to the presence of 3 to 4 terrorists because attack had taken place on the vehicle from all the sides simultaneously. Going by the trajectory of the bullets which hit the army vehicle, the investigators feel that terrorists, they were hiding in the forest on the hill on one side of the road. Other side of the road was a gorge, and they were hiding in the forest there too. When truck reached, they started firing from both sides. One of them may have come down the hill and opened fire on driver also. When truck moved, they fired on the backside also. In the meantime, someone appears to have thrown a grenade, making the truck to catch fire. This is what they found from the spot.
Right, and Arun, because you mentioned the steel core bullets that were found in the Poonch attack, didn't we find similar bullets during another attack that took place in the adjoining Rajouri district in January?
Yes, in a Upper Dangri village also, where 7 civilians were killed by terrorists in back-to-back terror attack on January 1st and 2, they had used steel core bullets. And empties of similar kind of bullets have been found in Poonch attack also, this attack also. So except for that, they may be the same group, no one is saying it. 2 groups of militants having numbers between 7 to 8 are believed to be operating in this area.
And Arun, what about the people from the village? We understand that the trucks were carrying food for an iftar party in the village. So how did they react to the attack?
Immediately after the attack, when news reached the villagers, a pall of gloom descended the village. They were basically preparing. We had planned an iftar party and had sent out invitations to prominent local villagers. Say, for example, Sarpanch, some government officials who belong to the village. And iftar party was fixed for 7 p.m. Thursday. When news reached, they all tried to rush towards the site to find out what happened. But in the meantime, the roads were closed and they did not celebrate it. They certainly offered prayer in the mosque. And after offering prayers, they returned to their homes instead of visiting houses of neighbors, friends, and relatives and giving them Eid greetings. There was no such of any sort of any festivity in the village. The village Sarpanch says these people, the RR people, they were there. They had been nice to them and there to serve the people for their protection. They used to come out to their help in times of need. When someone needed medicine or some other thing, they used to help them out. In this hour of grief, they say we are with their families of the soldiers who have been killed.
And next we talk about Amritpal Singh. Yesterday morning, Khalistan sympathizer and the leader of Waris Punjab, Amritpal Singh, surrendered before the Punjab police. Now, this comes after a month-long chase to arrest Amritpal because of the Ajnala incident, in which hundreds of followers of his outfit had stormed the Ajnala police station near Amritsar and had demanded the release of one of their associates who was arrested on multiple charges, including the kidnapping of a former member. The police arrested Amritpal from a Gurdwara in Road A village, which is the native village of militant Jarnail Singh Bhindranwale, who Amritpal is known to admire. To know more about the man in question and his organization, Waris Punjab, my colleague Shashank Bhargava had spoken to the Indian Express's Manraj Grewal Sharma back in March when the crackdown against Amritpal started in Punjab. Here is an excerpt from that conversation.
Manraj, we've also learned a lot about his organization, right? Because it was started by actor and activist Deep Sidhu, but then out of nowhere, it was taken over by Amritpal.
You know, Amritpal came out of nowhere. So in September, he anointed himself. And this happened after Deep Sidhu died in an accident. So a lot of people expected that somebody close to Deep Sidhu, probably his brother, would take over that organization. But this guy, who was in Dubai since 2012, he suddenly parachuted to Punjab. So I believe till 2021, he was a clean-shaven boy. He was a clean-shaven youngster, very active on the social media. It was in the social media, it was in some chat room that he met Deep Sidhu, and he used to support him very vociferously during the farm agitation and all of that. So then he started mentioning himself as the president of WPD on the social media. So it was then once he came to India in August, then September, there was this grand ceremony and it was held at Rode village. Rode village is the birthplace of Jarnail Singh Bhindranwale.
Yeah, and this is something that really stands out about Amritpal. He seems highly influenced by Jarnail Singh Bhindranwale, who is widely considered the leading figure of the Khalistan movement, this demand for a separate Sikh state. And that has raised alarm bells in the administration. And you have also mentioned before on this podcast how through Waris Punjab Day, he had been trying to get people to follow a more pure form of Sikhism. So tell us, what have we found out about this organization since the crackdown started?
So since the crackdown, what we have found out is that right now what they are doing is the police are investigating his sources of funding. Where was he getting his funding from? So they are investigating the accounts of his organization as well as the people associated with him. And we also found that he was probably in the process of raising a new organization, a new arm, which was more weaponized, called Anandpur Khalsa Fauj. So AKF. This was written outside his house as well. So you see, a lot of us went there to his house after the Ajnala episode. We saw that, but we didn't really correlate it to anything serious. And we also saw that the bodyguards around him had this engraved on their weapons. Some engraving. Nobody took care to find out what exactly it's about. So, but I believe this was a sort of army that he had. And this was different from Waris Punjab Day. And we also hear that he was also planning a school for NRI kids where they could connect to their roots. So, but it wasn't the rank and file. It was a sort of one-man operation. He had these close aides, one being his uncle, and one of them was his financier. He was this actor as well, and he was arrested from Gurugram.
You're talking about Daljit Singh Kalsi.
Yes. In fact, he had starred in a movie as well as the lead. And we are told that after Amritpal got associated, took over WPD, he went on a world tour of sorts, raising funds for the organization. So right now, the police focusing on this funding, who was supporting him? Because one thing that was very clear right from the beginning is that here was a man who came out of nowhere, and the rhetoric was all very, very polarizing. Because I think it's for the first time somebody said that, yes, nothing doing, we have to get a separate state, and was very, very unapologetic about it. So you see, you had that, yes, we return to the pure form of Sikhi, baptism, so get baptized. Then once you get baptized, of course, and even if you don't get baptized, shun drugs and fight for a separate state. He made no bones about it.
And Manraj, does this idea of Khalistan resonate with people in Punjab right now?
You know, it does not. Because people have seen, when I traveled across Punjab, there were two voices, two words that jumped at you. One was dhakka. This is what Amritpal would say very often, that Punjabis have never got their due. They have been repressed. There's a lot of injustice that has been done to them. So that was his narrative, right? But the counter narrative of the people, when he spoke about Khalistan, maybe there was this fringe which kind of agreed with him. But by and large, Khalistan doesn't have many takers in Punjab. It doesn't. And people, in fact, are scared of the word because that reminds them of militancy. And Punjab suffered the most. It was people on the ground who suffered the most. They were caught between militants and the police because the police was very proactive and so were the militants, and it was the common man who was caught in the middle. The other word that you keep hearing is santap. So if you go to the villages, they'll tell you santap is suffering. We have suffered a lot. We do not want to repeat that again. So this is the voice of people who've seen that. Say the middle-aged 40 plus, 50 plus person who's lived through militancy, who may have been a child.
Right, and this is the older generation that we're talking about. But Amritpal and his organization also targeted a lot of younger people, especially those who had a drug problem. So talk about those people who ended up gravitating towards him.
So see, there were three prongs of his narrative. One was that come to me, I will take you to a pure form of Sikhism. Secondly, I will deliver you from drugs. Let us shun drugs. If you're an addict, come to me. I will rehabilitate you. Third was that we have to fight for a separate state because the Sikhs have been persecuted right from independence or right from the times of the British rule. So these were the three threads in his narrative, and each got intertwined. So people who came, say, for only drug rehab also got embroiled in the separate statehood narrative. So it's not so simple. It'll be simplistic to say that anyone who came to him only because he had a divisive agenda. There were people who came only for drug rehab. And while the educated masses who have seen the dark decade, as we call it, who have seen militancy, were very wary of him. If you go to the villages, they'll tell you, we have seen those dark days, we don't want to repeat. They're very clear about it. But youngsters, uneducated youngsters with very little to look forward to, they found some kind of higher calling, some kind of higher purpose in the way he marshaled them, that all of you are the chosen ones. This is what we need to do. And this we will be doing for our community and all of that. So a lot of rhetoric, lot of marshalling of people, which he was good at.
And finally, we talk about the small coastal village of Podampeta in Odisha.
Podampeta is a village of basically habitated by the fisherman community. Around 500 households were there. So it's close to the Bay of Bengal.
That was the Indian Express's Sujit Bisoyi who visited Podampeta. And today he tells us about the village which was once home to over 1,500 fisherfolk.
But interestingly, now only 2 families were left in the village with just 11 population. From the outsiders, it just looks like any other fisherman on the beaches. But as you walk through the village, you'll find the emptiness hitting the homes.
He says that most of these homes are under lock and key and are overrun by trees and shrubs. But the question, how did this happen? How did a village of 1,500 reduce to a mere 11? To understand this, Sujit spoke to the remaining families there.
According to one family, the village was settled around 40 years back because most of the villagers are fishermen. So they generally choose a close place which is very close to the sea so that they can dock their boats, they can store their nets and other equipments. So they chose this place and settled there 40 years back. One of the villagers, she recalled how it was a bustling place a few years ago when villagers used to organize pujas at one place. The streets were filled with laugh and fight of the children once they after return from the schools.
But now he says there's a haunting emptiness there. People told him that things started changing around 2007. Because of climate change and rising sea levels, the sea started advancing into the land and submerging houses. And Sujit says that that's when the government decided to start rehabilitating the villagers.
When the sea erosion started in 2007-2008, the government prepared a plan under the Odisha Disaster Recovery Project, constructed houses and persuaded the villagers to shift there because sea is making swift advancement into the habitation. So under that project, initially there were hesitations among the villages to shift to the ODRP colony, but gradually the officials managed to persuade them to shift to the colony.
And as we discussed, almost all the villagers gradually left except the 2 families that Sujit met in Podampeta.
So one of the family, there are 7 members, including 4 adult girls. And the government, which is providing a house to these villagers at the resettlement colony, since this project has been developed under Odisha Disaster Recovery Project, so that is called ODRP colony. So under ODRP project, government provides a 300 square feet, only single room, 300 square feet drawing come bedroom and kitchen and a bathroom. When I spoke to one of the families who has 7 members, according to her, they spent the entire lifetime saving on building this house in Podampeta. So now if they will shift to the ODRP colony, they have to survive in just one room and they have 4 girls in their family. So according to them, they will not fit in that room. So even if they want to expand, they have to spend additional amounts, they have to buy land, they have to spent on construction. That's the issue. And the second family, two of his sons have got home. They shifted with their families. So this old man is still staying because that colony is quite far from the sea. So this 70-year-old man which I met, he said it's easy for him to operate from this Podampeta village. They're saying let the sea comes close to there, only then they will leave the village.
We asked Sujit how these 11 people are managing to survive in a place they now refer to as a ghost village, a place that has no amenities.
So for day-to-day basic needs, they depend on the nearest town, that is Kuma, that is situated on National Highway, 10 kilometers away from the village, National Highway 16. That is Kolkata and Chennai National Highway. So these villagers go to that place for day-to-day need. Even for small medical needs, they go to another town. The village used to have a primary school, and that is not operational right now after most of the villages have left. It's kind of that. Even the village don't have a good road. You have to cross a muddy patch to step into that village.
And Podampeta is not the only village facing a threat from rising sea levels. Around 60 kilometers away, another village called Ramyapatna is also in a similar situation. In fact, in Odisha, at least 16 villages have already submerged because of this problem. Here, Sujit explains why the situation is so dire in the state.
Some of the key reasons including construction of coastal structures like sea walls, breakwaters, jetties, or development of ports, harbors, something like that. That is one thing that changes the current of the sea basically. And one major point also is the natural hazards like tsunami and cyclone that resulted in significant change of the shoreline. And on the east coast, Odisha is quite prone to cyclones because people here have faced as many as 10 cyclones in the past 12 years. So these are the key reasons which resulted in sea erosion. Apart from that, climate change, then tide surge, climate change, these are all some of the reasons.
And in the face of this, Sujit says this government has found some ways to stop further coastal erosion by building seawalls.
They are developing seawalls using geotextile tubes to construct seawalls. So how these geotextile tubes operate, they absorb the impact of waves when they hit the shore. So what happens then that minimize the erosion. In Kendrapada district, they have already constructed one seawall in the high erosion zone. Now they are also planning to develop two such seawalls in both the villages in Ganjam district. For one villages, for 1200 meter seawall has already been approved. That will be developed with an investment of 23 crore. And in Podampeta also, government plans to develop one seawall with an investment of 23 lakhs. The survey is on. The work is expected to start very soon, according to the local officials. But, that will not bring the villagers back because they will have to settle in the new colony where they have been rehabilitated. But since Odisha is very sensitive to coastal erosion, it faces natural hazards like cyclones almost every alternate year, and that too very severe cyclonic storms. So just to arrest this erosion, government is, and just to make sure that there should not be further advancement of sea, government is planning to construct these sea walls.
You were listening to 3 Things by the Indian Express. Today's show was hosted by me, Rahel Philipose, and written and produced by me, Rahel Philipose, Utsa Sarmin, Shashank Bhargava, and Anwiti Singh, who originally spoke to Sujit Bisoyi for the Odisha story. It was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone who you think would like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Podcasts and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.